We continue our discussion, but we have an interesting guest this morning. We are not chatting with one of the assemblymen, but we are actually chatting with the chairman of the Tobago's People's Party. Good morning, Miss Natasha Ann Second, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm having a great day so far. I'm looking forward to a great week. Good morning to all of Tobago and all of the viewers across the globe.
Right now, it's a bit different to have a party chair in the chair this morning, but still, we have a number of questions that we want to ask, specifically seeing that we are in year 3. And there's one more year left of your party being in office. But the truth of the matter is you did not start off as the Tobago People's Party. Persons placed their confidence in the PDP and now you are TPP. What kind of work have the organization been doing internally and externally to transfer that confidence to the new party?
That's an excellent question to start the discussion. We would have memories of that time when we toppled the PNM in December of 2021. We entered that race, even though we entered as the PDP, we entered that race with one contender for our chief secretary post, and he remains the current chief secretary. The candidate who was going to be chief secretary was Fali Chavez Augustine, and he remains the chief secretary. So we had that sort of primary nexus to build our party. And coming out of the breakaway, the members, the individuals, the persons who were attracted to the PTP initially and to the movement against the PNM, they demanded that we as an organization contest elections in the future, which meant that we had to go back to the drawing board and organize. And we would have successfully organized. We would have registered our party. It was built from the ground up, constitution, all arms of the party are now fully constituted. We have the Women's Council, the Men's Council, the Youth Council, etc. And we are properly preparing for the general election. The general election process for us has begun with the call for nominations. And I'm pleased to say that we have a very strong cadre of Tobagonians, all ages, all professions, who have put their foot forward to try to contest and represent the TPP. So the party will shortly indicate who will be our candidates for Tobago East and Tobago West.
Okay, nice. And Ms. Second, the beautiful thing about this interview is that the last time you and I crossed paths, you were a teacher, I was a student, and now here you are in the field of politics. And I just want you to walk us through that transition from, being a teacher to now getting into politics, because we have so many young people, so many general people who would like to get into the field of politics. But it's always, the question comes down to that transition. How do I transition from where I am now to where I would like to go? So walk me through that.
All right, so it begins with the passion. It begins with knowing that you want to contribute to service of your country, understanding concepts of power, and understanding that at the end of the day, no matter what you think, no matter what you promote and you argue, power is what determines the policies that affect people's lives. And you need power. You need to acquire power. I would have had a number of years in education, but I was always interested in politics. So every election I would have been on the ground campaigning with someone. That is the passion. Once the persons, and our TPP party in particular, has persons from all different walks of life, persons who were in other political parties before, persons who just came out of the professional field. Once you've decided that politics is the way you're going to go, you do have to be realistic. You have to ensure that you are financially secure. You have to ensure that your family is on board with you. Your family understands that there is going to be personal attacking. There's going to be attacks on your family. There's going to be some elements of persecution because we are playing for power. So you have to be ready. So you have to ready yourself emotionally, psychologically, prepare yourself with all of the knowledge that is necessary, and then jump straight in and swim.
And Ms. Second, you sound so relaxed about that transition, like it wasn't difficult for you. Was it difficult, or it was something that was, okay, I have been preparing for this all the years of my life, so now that it's finally here, I can step into it. How was that transition for you?
I enjoyed it because it was a natural progress for me. I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of the PNM in Tobago, which would have propelled all of the different persons that I just mentioned to move towards ousting the PNM from power and sort of restoring Tobago to the seat of power. Persons coming from different walks of life, whether they were police officers, teachers, general public servants, etc., wanted something better for Tobago, young people, etc. So we began to organize ourselves, particularly for the youth, particularly to structure something that would represent less of the injustice that has been institutionalized by the PNM in Tobago. We have national policies that have worked completely against the Tobagonian population. For instance, the 25-year battle for autonomy, the buckle of trying to transport ourselves to and from Trinidad, the domestic flight with our Caribbean Airlines, the oppression of our students, of our student population. Even right now, the challenges that we have, or we will have, once the public servants understand that they are now the new poor, now that Dr. Keith Rowley has accepted the Salary Reviews Commission that has given them 47 and similar amounts of percentages increase, while the general masses have between 0 and 4% increase. So they are the new poor. We no longer have a middle class. So people have to be driven, and were driven by the oppressive states that led to injustices in the system in Tobago. And so we got together. It was a natural transition because you want better for your island. And you have to decide that political structures are important to our everyday lives. And the only way that you can make those changes is by being involved yourself. It takes some courage, though. It takes some courage on your part.
And what do you say to the persons who would say, if yourself and your party truly wanted autonomy, that you would have voted in favor of the Tobago Autonomy Bill and worked towards continuous improvement?
Well, we would start by the reality of that statement. We do not have the authority to vote for autonomy, right? Because we are not in the House. We're not in the Parliament in Trinidad. Only the members of Parliament in Trinidad can actually vote.
Constitutional.
Right, constitutional. So we could have articulated a position, we could have argued for it, we could have advocated, and all of Tobago and members of in the Trinidad space have articulated the positions towards autonomy for Tobago for the last 25 years. So the structure that led to a rejection of autonomy was set up by the PNM. It is controlled by the PNM. It was a whole pappy show. It made no sense. The opposition wasn't invited to be involved in the discussions. The opposition in Trinidad I'm talking about. Tobago, even though our voice could be heard, could not vote. So those who voted are across the waters and they exist in the parliament. So we didn't have a vote. Some persons who lost an election during 2021 were able to influence the vote and actually speak in parliament. Like our senators, Senator Ansel Dennis, Senator Hislop, and so on. But the Tobago House of Assembly and all of the members there who were elected by the Tobago people, they could speak outside of Parliament, but they cannot vote and they cannot influence the vote.
Okay, Ms. Second, and sticking on the topic of Tobago's autonomy, I want you to articulate for us in terms of the TPP, what are your plans for the upcoming year or the upcoming years, granted that you all are given a renewal, that 4 years renewal, where Tobago's autonomy is concerned and getting the public involved? Because I think on the ground, we have been hearing people saying that although they are interested in the conversation, they have not been somewhat feeling included in the conversation. Sometimes when you look at the discussion about Tobago's autonomy, it seems to be a discussion that's only for the politicians, people in power, but in order for us to really or in any country, any island, to get that true constitutional reform, it needs to be an everybody conversation. What can we expect to see from the TPP in terms of bridging that gap between the public and the autonomy conversation?
We have to first understand autonomy at different levels. So the man on the block must understand how it relates to him if he's going to be invested in it. One of the tricks of politics, especially if you have the existing power to control, is to limit the understanding of the concepts to average man on the street. So that you actually make your decisions that affect their lives without them knowing, and you blindside them with other things, maybe hampers, maybe 10 days work, maybe whatever. But you distract them with things that are short term, even fets. You might distract them with those things. But you do not break it down so that they understand. You don't take the time to educate the public in the way the public should be educated. And the TPP's approach is to re-educate the population. So the word autonomy, we're going to break that down. And I believe the Chief Secretary has been doing a series on autonomy, trying to ensure that various levels of the population understand the concept and understand what it is we are looking for. Some of the practical components, the fiscal, bigger practical components, are defining the waters of Tobago and what is inside of those waters of Tobago, like the gas fields and so on. And are we getting what we're supposed to get to advance and develop the socioeconomic context of Tobago? One of the ministers on the red side would have been on several programs indicating that knowing that there's gas close to Tobago shouldn't affect our decision about autonomy because, you know, in other words, because we don't have the platforms and we don't have the ability to develop those things. We don't have the capacity development. We don't have the capital to invest in it. But we can, through different law creating factors coming out of autonomy, attract foreign investment. So what the TPP is going to be doing is taking our time to educate everyone from every level.
Okay.
Men on the block, young people, teachers, persons in school, everybody, men, women. We need to understand what greater autonomy would mean for all service delivery to Tobagonians.
Excellent. And with this being the last year for the THA executive, it is also the year of the general election. How are you and your party members preparing for that? And we know that you had a nomination that was closed on the 8th of January. How did that go? What was the process? Who were the nominees? Usually when a nomination is closed, we see all the nominees are put out there and persons could see who they can support, but we have not seen that from the TPP. Can you explain what has happened with the general election nomination?
Right, so we are very interested in general elections. Dr. Rowley would have described the parliament in loose language as a bigger kennel, which meant that they have more power, right? They have, out of the 41 seats, they have the majority in the House. We needed to exercise the ability to understand that we need to reduce his kennel in order for Tobago to actually really have some power. One way to do that is to acquire the 2 seats, in the general election, Tobago East and the Tobago West, at least the member of parliament voices, right? So the TPP is going to contest the election. Let's start with that. Secondly, we have called for nominations and persons did apply to be recognized as potential candidates.
Can you tell us how many?
I'm not going to tell you how many. The party is going to publicly announce how many for the East, how many for the West, and we're going to announce the process that will lead to the selection of the candidates.
Okay.
So a number of persons did successfully submit their nominations. One of the criteria that was needed was that we needed 6 financial members of the party to nominate persons, whether East or West. So you had to come from a party group or be a functioning member of the party. So it's a very democratic process. It shows the ability of the people to organize themselves. Like I said, we have action groups, different councils and so on organized. So persons would have presented who they want. They proposed persons to be potential candidates.
Right. And I mean, persons are asking, why is the nomination process such a secret within the party?
Right. So I'm going to say something that I want the whole of Tobago and all Tobagonians living everywhere to understand. The power is a very serious concept. Even after we would have won elections, December 2021, democracy became eroded immediately by the bigger power, the bigger kennel. What do I mean by that? The Chief Secretary and different secretaries were attacked with a voice note drama. Earlier on, very early in the the term with the intention of having some sort of coup and ousting them from office. And we had a number of regular citizens. Their devices were taken from them, their homes were searched, they were searched in the workplace, things were taken from them with the intention to psychologically traumatize the public servants so that they would not be willing to work with the executive council. They would be afraid to work with the executive council to execute the new mandate of this new government. That was an assault on democracy. So the members of the TPP and all of their families and all of the persons in the THA, etc., have to find different ways to manage that power and control over them. And they have to operate with wisdom. We can't have all of our methods and our business out there. We have been able to very stealthily register our party. We have been able to meet, whether it's in the East, whether it's in the West, and keep our party alive. Because we understand that the powers that be, the bigger kennel is located in Trinidad in Central Government, run still now by Dr. Keith Rowley and with the blessing of Stuart Young. So we have to operate with care. We do care. So we have to ensure that some of our things are kind of highly secret.
Okay.
Understood. But before we go to the break, the question is, have you shown interest in any of those seats, whether it be Tobago East, Tobago West? Have you thrown your hat into that ring?
I most definitely have. I wouldn't be able to say which one, but I most definitely have.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break right here. I'm going to be back right after this. See you soon.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago as we are continuing the Beneath the Surface series. And yes, viewers, we are chatting with Miss Natasha and Second, Chairman of the Tobago People's Party. Now, Miss Second, elections are coming up very soon. And I think for the country of Trinidad and Tobago, this is going to be a very interesting season in terms of elections because we have general elections and THA elections coming right behind one another. But in terms of, the TPP and campaigning, what can the average Tobagoan expect to see rolling out very soon?
Right. So we won't go into the specific strategies of the party, but there are very generic things that all parties do. So we'll have spot meetings, even though we're under a state of emergency. There is no restriction against hosting mass gatherings and so on. Persons would want to season their language with salt to make sure that they're not charged with sedition or anything like that, So you do want to temper how you speak and how you behave. But we will have the spot meetings. We're going to be opening all of our satellite offices. The main office will be right here at the Port Mall. More information on that will come during this week. And we will have house-to-house campaigning to explain to the persons who will be eligible to vote. All of the young persons voting for the first time, persons who have had a side, they've been part of the critical mass either of the PNM or any other organization over the years. We want to take our messaging house to house, ear to ear, share what we have to offer and help people to be empowered to understand that this election isn't so much about the individual, but it is a reflection on the Tobago's perspective and how Tobago can achieve what we need to achieve through all of the components and the authorities of autonomy.
Okay, great, Ms. Second. And, we've been hearing this slang, I should say, standalone MP coming out from the party. So I want you to talk to me about that concept and what does it mean? Because I myself want to know what it means, a standalone MP. What does that mean?
Right. So people would be thinking of MPs in terms of their ministerial portfolio. People would be thinking, what's the point of having two MPs, Tobago East and West, who are not aligned to a particular, they don't form the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And that would be one of the arguments that would come from those who control power right now. But I want us to reflect on it and think about it a little bit. Recently, we had the Prime Minister handing over power through a very interesting process. I call it the glitch in the PNM matrix, where he came out, he announced that, he'll be leaving soon. And a small number of them in the ministerial caucus would have decided that Stuart Young should be the Prime Minister. After that, we had some internal wrangling burst out onto the national stage. We had a Jennifer Baptiste Priners, LeHunt, and different people sort of attacking the undemocratic process. Then we had round robin of different MPs, etc., and negotiations according to Primus, and they decided that instead of 9/11, all 21 of them would sign an agreement to have the new PM be Stuart Young. When you think about it in that context, you try to isolate the Tobago voice and the Tobago perspective, you understand that in terms of the PNM National Party, their voice and their devotion and their commitment is towards their party rather than towards the island of Tobago or towards Tobago's views. Having a standalone MP without a ministerial portfolio gives Tobago the unique perspective of returning that voice to Tobago, unencumbered by whatever negotiations took place in Trinidad. But I want to make sure I explain myself properly. A ministerial post means you could be Minister of Youth, you could be Minister of Education, etc. So your policy positions or your programs or your commitment would be towards these particular ministries, right? So some of your time would be left for raising issues to do with your island, with Tobago, etc. If you are an MP, a member of parliament, you are part of that, the parliament that is constituted of Senate, parliamentarians, your House of Representatives, etc. You are part of that team. If the only thing you have to do is take the Tobagonian perspective to every single bill that comes there, research the best position for Tobago. Tobago would never have had the kind of representation that it could potentially have now. So for the TPP, we are going after a Tobago East MP and a Tobago West MP that looks at Tobago's interests rather than is absorbed by whatever is this PNM individual focus on their party, which may harm Tobago. You understand what I'm saying?
Understood. Mm-hmm. And when we look even at the next THA election that is to come, in the first instance, it was basically a coalition of, I believe the Chief Secretary called the willing and the competent. Yes. But this time around, you have a more established party structure. How would representatives be nominated to represent each district? What would that process look like? Would it be more democratic? And how can the persons within the district actually get involved in selecting their candidates as opposed to going with whoever the party chooses?
A review of our current constitution shows that the power rests among the people. So if you're involved in the action groups, if you're involved at any of the party arm level, you would be able to contribute, you would be able to give feedback, and you'll be able to participate in the process. Your voice is critical in determining the role of your representative, how you have related to your representative, and who you would like to represent you. Because we want to have a very strong bottoms-up approach to democracy in the party. There is structure, there is order, there's discipline, and so on. But the voice of the people in terms of the young people, in terms of every member who puts themselves forward to represent at any arm of the party will be recognized. So it's going to be a holistic process that will involve the best representatives being selected in every single district in Tobago.
Right, and what does that process look like? Is it an election? Is it an how will that happen?
But we're not sharing the exact how, obviously, because we have a competitor out there.
Okay, so is it that there would the final buck would stop at the political leader and the chairman of the party who represents, or would the party group be coming together and establishing who would be the representative for their area.
Right, so it'll be a combination. It'll be the party groups, the general population, because we'll do polls as well. The work of the assemblyman as well. The evidence would indicate if you have a A grade, you have a B plus grade, etc. You did well, you did your very best with the resources that you had. You love the people, and the people want you. The people want you back. Or the people want somebody new, somebody who can continue the vision of Tobagonians in their party, which they created from the bottom up.
Okay, great. And Ms. Second, last week I asked the question, it started off as what does beneath the surface mean to you in terms of a Tobagonian? And then I changed it to, when you think about Tobago, the island of Tobago, what does Tobago mean to you both professionally and personally?
Well, I spent my adult life in Tobago, even though I was educated elsewhere, and I've traveled a lot. I love Tobago in terms of our values. We have a good system of values. We do have some invasive positions, like a little bit of materialism and a little bit of individualism and some divisiveness. But generally, we have very good, strong values that would have led to the harvest culture. We are the only place I know in the world where you could come on a Sunday and participate first in a church celebration to thank God for all of his blessings. And then you share what God has blessed you with, food and drink and so on. Our particular traditions that we celebrate, whether it's wake, whether it's weddings, how we christen children, how we indoctrinate our young people, etc. So I love Tobago. I see a vulgar invasion of criminal activity onto the minds of our young people and even some of our men, or grown men and grown women in our society that is unprecedented. It was usually associated with urban youth, like in Port of Spain and so on. Gang culture, criminal culture, a very materialistic perspective that doesn't want to volunteer, but wants to acquire things today for today, like right now, at any cost. Very selfish approach to leadership, where you're not grooming those under you, you're not helping those under you, you exploit, rather. So that is a kind of creeping negative culture that can tend to be controlled by policies, broader macro policies. And I would like to be part of the process of ensuring that Tobago does not lose its way, that our young men and our young women can have very positive streams to help them to be educated and to integrate naturally into adult life through the workforce and so on in a proper way, rather than through the influence of crime and criminal activity. So I love Tobago for what we authentically are, and I reject those kinds of invasive criminal components to our lives now, and I would like to be part of the system that reaffirms who we are.
Okay, nice. And for 2025, Vision 2025, you all are basically on the last lap before you go back out and battle to get reinstated. What are your visions? What are your plans? What can we expect to see coming out from the TPP?
Right, so the TPP, through this current administration, has had to play a balancing act. We've had to survive the onslaught of the central government and the attacks using the police and licensing and so on. We have had to survive that. We've also had to survive the underfunding by Colin Imbert and his team, the deliberate underfunding. We've also had to survive blatant attempts at disrespecting the authority of both the office of our chief secretary and the existing structure of our THA. We have had to be creative in how we reprioritize our funding, and creative in terms of how we determine what we are going to look at as the projects that would best serve our island. So we came up with the 44 out of 44 projects. What we are going to be doing is making the demands within the law for what we're supposed to get. Colmin Road, for instance, promised us $230 million towards building Scarborough Sec, only gave us $500,000. We're going to be on the hustings, speaking to that, making our demands. requiring or $230 million because his decision hurts Kabusek, it hurts our young people. They are some of the top performing students on the island. Their parents, their teachers are all demotivated because of that. We're going to make those kind of demands. We are going to highlight any shortfall in terms of funding provided to us or any sort of mamagism like the facade that they brought to us with the autonomy quest. There was no genuine interest in autonomy, and we are going to highlight that. And we are going to continue to grow in strength and in power by ensuring that the public is properly educated about our politics and so on. It is our intention to expand our horizons by taking Tobago East and Tobago West. There are no safe seats in Tobago. As the campaign manager for Sonny Craig in the Boko Mount Pleasant area, we dispelled any notions of safe seats on the island a long time ago. So Tobago West not safe, Tobago East not safe. We are taking both. And we're going to do the work that is necessary to ensure that we do that.
How important is it for the administration to focus and include the youth voice and the youth vote in the upcoming election campaigns that you will be having?
It is impossible to not involve the youth perspective and the youth vote. Apart from the fact that a number of persons would have turned 18 and sometimes they're influenced by whether it's granny or auntie or so, you have to go after the mind of the youth and the will of the youth, understand what it is they want, what it is they need, and engage them in the political process. It is critical. It is extremely important. And they will be attracted to our party, and there will be systems set up to both keep them and ensure that they have the opportunity to grow and develop.
Excellent. Well, we are having to round up this morning, unfortunately, but is there anything that you want to say to Tobago and the general public before you go off?
Yes, Faris Alwari would have described the selection of Stuart Young. I mean, it's old news now, but he would have described the selection of him as evidence that there's no glass ceiling in the PNM against race. So I want the PNM to remember that when they come to the hustings and they try to align the TPP with the UNC, because they constantly try to use race in the politics to diminish our perspectives and so on. I also want to talk about the fact that our party has no glass ceilings. We have no glass ceilings against women. It's a place where women can self-actualize. We have no glass ceilings against the youth. We have no glass ceiling against people based on their race, people based on whatever positions they hold in the public service or otherwise. So you're welcome to find out about our party and to come and be part of the movement as we seek to grow, to develop, and to impact positively Tobago's development.
All right, Ms. Second, so I would like to thank you for agreeing to sit with us this morning. I think it was a very healthy conversation. I think most of the conversations we've been having on this series has been very healthy. We look forward to see the work that it's going to be launched out soon. So I want to thank you once again. So viewers, that was Miss Natasha and Second, TPP Chairman, as we continue the Beneath the Surface series right here on Tobago Updates. For everyone that joined us, for everyone that locked in, thank you so much for choosing Tobago Updates to start your morning on the right note. So I want you all to just be safe on the road today. Have a blessed and productive week. And remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.